today, Todd Elbert called me from the newspaper and wanted a few thoughts on this entire project. It's going on for almost 2 years now. And it's been educational for all of us. It's been fun. It's been challenging. What other adjectives do I need, Nikki? I mean, it pretty much run the gamut. And I should introduce Nikki Mornicki, our city planner, Rob Sarrigan, our parks. We got several of our council people here, Mr. Crod, Corbett, Mr. Urasti, Mr. Engel. So thank you for being here. But the one quote that I know Todd will print in the newspaper that I think is important, this is your parks plan. This whole process has evolved from coming out of our comprehensive plan for the city. It was recommended that we go through this process, but we've involved the community. There's been input on many, many items of over 500 individuals that live in and around the city of Defiance. And we're really, really thrilled that people from outside the city that come here and work and play and pray and spend money and all of that stuff, that we're willing to offer their input as well. That means a lot to us. So I'm not here to talk tonight. I'm here to learn with the rest of you. So we're going to turn it over to JPR, who's been a really fun group to work with. I don't know.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hiding behind you.
Right,
you're good. But yeah, welcome everybody. Like the Mayor said, this has been really exciting to get the community input, both in meetings here, through stakeholders, through steering committee, through the various surveys that we've had, just to really get input that really refines this master plan into something that is very specific to Defiance. And really we've come to this culmination, this exciting point where we've taken all of this information, taken feedback, taken input, revised this, revised that, to really get it into what is kind of a final product that's ready for the next step, right? So this isn't the end, it's the end of this step, preparing for the next step. So tonight we'll kind of go through a little, very high level of kind of what that process has been, hit on a couple key parts, some of the newer items from the last time we were in this space reviewing, and then share kind of those final renderings, the final graphics, the final information that all of this is culminated to. So again, we'll kind of run through that planning process and talk about the last survey that we completed. We'll go through some of those results, some of that great input that we received to really help refine some of those details, some of the nuance, little parts of the parks and components and the riverfront and things, to really refine that into what we heard from the community. And then we'll present that final master plan. We'll also look at what's probably the most important part of this entire master plan is the implementation matrix. We'll dive into that very deep, but that's really just the breakdown of taking this pretty pictures and boiling it down into step-by-step steps, some of them small, some of them big, to really take this and continue the momentum and continue moving forward. We'll also share a link, which will also be on the Facebook page and throughout a variety of places through town, where one last survey. So we still want to get your feedback of, is there something major we missed? So we'll share that at the end. And then we'll kind of talk about next steps as well, and kind of the last couple remaining steps as we continue to throughout this process. And then at the end, you can see the boards around the front. We'll pull those up and we'll be around for feedback, and just to kind of talk through what you're seeing. We'll present a lot of things, but have a lot of time for kind of one-on-one conversation and really working through different details. So you'll see a lot of familiar faces. So Nathan with JPR. We have Amy and Amber up here with Hometown Initiatives. We also have Josh, Sydney, and Rachel over there with JPR. And you see a couple people on here, but there's a lot of people that have been helping behind the scenes as well, just with different specialties or different input, opportunities to really create a well-rounded plan that thinks about these improvements from a lot of different aspects to make it as implementable and functional as possible.
That came up quicker than I thought. So the Defiance Parks and Riverfront Master Plan really began with a clear vision from the community, which was to develop a community-supported park and riverfront master plan that can be successfully implemented through capital projects, programmatic strategies, and operations. Throughout the planning process, this vision remained at the forefront as we continually revisited the project's guiding goals, of which there were four. The first, promote public health, safety, and social equity. The second, enhance environmental quality and reduce flood risk. Third, foster vibrancy and placemaking along the riverfront, really showcasing the value and the beauty of Defiance's rivers. And number four, improve connectivity to and between parks across the community. To effectively, To effectively kind of address those goals, we followed a three-phased approach to the project. Phase one is a base inventory and opportunity analysis. We kicked off the project by engaging with the community, as you've heard. We toured every park and recreation facility in Defiance, compiling a comprehensive inventory. This phase resulted in an inventory and opportunity analysis report that detailed existing conditions and outlined potential areas for growth and improvement. Phase two was preliminary planning and design. Building on that phase one findings, we began developing project ideas, strategies, and conceptual improvements for each park and riverfront areas. These ideas were visually represented in plans with example photos and renderings that were shared with the community for feedback, allowing us to refine and prioritize them collaboratively. Phase three, which as Nathan says where we are now, we formalized those park designs and created an implementation matrix to guide next steps, partnerships, and funding strategies. The final product is a comprehensive and actionable roadmap for the future of parks and riverfront spaces in Defiance, with graphics that communicate planned projects and outcomes. As the mayor alluded to, Nathan alluded to, I think for our team, one of the most encouraging outcomes of this whole process has really been the overwhelming community engagement of Defiance. The residents have showed up in full force to share their ideas, their feedback, and give their support, and it is truly reflected in the plan and the design that are included. More than 2,000 individuals participated in some form of outreach, and you have all the specifics there. Surveys, stakeholder meetings, steering committees, family fun, community workshops, and meetings. Social media also played a huge role. Our project's Facebook page gained over 600 followers in 1 year, and like literally 80 in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Reached over 94,000 views and saw nearly 2,000 interactions, which are likes, comments, or shares.
So we're not going to get into the details of all of the surveys, but we do want to go into the details of the last survey, which was published after the March community workshop. This survey, we introduced the refined concepts for the Riverfront Parks, Bronson Park, Deal Park, and Reservoir Park. This survey really asked participants to choose between two options for the riverfront parks and then also to rate each of the other parks from 1 to 5. So after receiving 502 responses, which was great, concept 1 for the riverfront parks was the winner, but not by a huge margin. So we really went through all those comments and tried to pick out what people really liked from different concepts and merge those into one, which we'll go into in a little bit. But some of the major differences between concept 1 and concept 2, Concept 1 introduced the event stage at the confluence in Kingsbury, and instead of a tridge, there were just 2 bridges that met at the foregrounds. And then Pontiac retained its open lawn concept and fountain, but gained more parking with the event center. And then Fort Grounds introduced additional boating and docks and a boardwalk there. Concept 2 introduced the idea of a marsh at the confluence instead of the event center, and that shifted south along the Auglaize, closer to 2nd Street. But this kept the original idea of the traditional tridge that you saw, and that was highlighted throughout the comprehensive plan. And then this also created more of a wandering path within Pontiac rather than the open lawn. But in both concepts, we made sure to keep the ball diamond exactly where it is today. We'll discuss, like I said, we'll discuss kind of where we drew all of the comments and feedback into the final design in just a second. But for Bronson Park, we received a 4.4 out of 5 rating, so this was very well received. We had many comments liking the treetop course and the nature center on the west side of the ravine, as well as access to the river below. Deal Park received an approval rating of 4.2, really complimenting the parking expansion and then the accessibility for all and getting the cars out of the actual ball diamond area and highlighting the importance of pedestrian and user connectivity. And then Reservoir Park received another rating of 4.2 with comments highlighting the number one demand we heard, which was more lighting. They also really love the idea of adding a playground with an updated restroom facility and trail expansion with another shelter house.
So with that, we'll get into the final Riverfront concept, which is really the culmination of all of the feedback that we've gathered from all of you. Very similar to what we've seen in the past, we have the confluence in downtown as well as Riverside to the south. But some of the main features here is we have that event lawn in Kingsbury right on the confluence, really angled with the baseball diamond to really maximize that view over the river there. We also heard a ton about those boardwalks, how people really seem to enjoy those. So we made sure to include quite a few of those throughout the confluence design. And then we do have that 2-legged pedestrian bridge that connects into Fort Grounds with Pontiac and Kingsbury. And we'll actually go park by park here, looking a bit closer, but we'll work west to east. So starting with Gateway Park. So in North Gateway, you can see that skate park as well as an adventure boardwalk. Can't hear me? Okay. So we have in North Gateway, we have that skate park as well as the adventure boardwalk with a kayak launch. And then also some parking associated with it. And then at the bridge, we have some room for a gateway as people enter into downtown along the bridge. And then in South Gateway Park, we have that market pavilion, as well as some parking associated with it and that existing restaurant with some outdoor dining. We did propose a larger commercial development on the corner, opportunity for a restaurant, just to really round out that block. We have a little cove area with another kayak launch, as well as some steps into the river for some engagement there. And we are proposing a walkway that would go under the Clinton Street Bridge to connect, just like it does on the north side. And then Canal Park and Canal Corridor. So it kind of starts in the South Gateway Park with a pedestrian corridor between that parking lot. And then it continues between that lot, connecting 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Street. So we had some mid-block crossings, but really focusing on the pedestrian corridor there. We're still providing the parking in the center, but kind of highlighting where the historic canal used to go with that paver pathway, as well as providing shade and seating, as well as lighting to just provide a new space in downtown Defiance. For Canal Park itself, we are proposing that eastern parking lot to have the provisions for food trucks. So it can operate as parking day to day, but have the opportunity for food trucks whenever events would be like to be had. And then the Canal Park amphitheater, just providing a spot for maybe an art installation, as well as some more outdoor dining.
Okay, so as mentioned before, we had the development on Canal Park on the north side. There are a variety of ways Pontiac Metro Park can be accessed. Obviously with cars, we're proposing build out of where the boat ramp is today for car access to park, but we also have, as shown here on the plan, parking along the main road here. As a pedestrian, you could come off the Clinton Street Bridge at street level or under the bridge to where the existing fountain is today. And that's kind of envisioned to be a more cultural heritage plaza, again emphasizing the existing fountain but with build-outs that you can again get some views along the river. You can access the park then through a variety of walkways or the boardwalks that were mentioned earlier. And as you go through the site, you'll have a multi-use lawn for a variety of events that it can be used, not just for active recreation, but also if you just wanted to picnic and eat along the river. You'll have a skating ribbon here beyond just the obvious use for skating in the wintertime. Could be programmed in the summer for rollerblading or just even a smaller walk-around loop. At the center of the confluence here, there's an event center hosting a potential for a variety of events, but also for its renting ability, capitalizing again on the views of the river and also just general activities going on at the confluence with the other parks. The pedestrian bridge will launch from this point here and work its way down to the old fort and then into Kingsbury. And as mentioned earlier, the boat dock, the boat launch area is over here, largely kept in its place, but expanded circulation routes as well as additional parking. When you come across, when you come across the river, there are a variety of ways pedestrians can access the park beyond just the pedestrian bridge here. Just like before, you can come off the main street here at Clinton or under the bridge here that was mentioned before that you could access a variety of activities up here, including the farmers market space. You can continue along the river here on a walkway that also has access to a dock. So beyond just being able to park on a street or at the library here or accessing via foot traffic, the vision is that you could come on a boat, park your boat, go to the library or downtown. You can continue along the river and work your way back up or work your way back up here to the library or downtown, or stay along the river here and work your way down south, giving you a variety of opportunities here to, as we saw early in the public engagement, access to the river, getting close to the river, both, you'll see here along the river's edge, walkways, but also walkways at street level, and then interactive walkways that get you out over the water with boardwalks, again, beyond just the pedestrian bridge here.
This closer to me. Okay, so looking at Kingsbury here, right as that pedestrian bridge kind of enters Kingsbury, we have that large event lawn right on the access with the baseball diamond. So that stage really has that great view over the river, but it is also flanked on either side with that marsh area. So kind of combining both concept 1 and 2 from the previous design. It then has a boardwalk that wanders through it and connects back to this pickleball area, which would have some more parking there available. The baseball diamond, as it is today in the center here, has a mixed-use building on the other side of it that would lead into this welcoming plaza with a drop-off area as well as some shaded areas. On the middle of this plaza where the pedestrian bridge enters Kingsbury, we have that nature center that has a great overlook into the marsh area and really provides a great educational opportunity in this park. And then next to it, we just have a larger shelter that could be rented in the warmer months. Then between the pool and this larger mixed use on the corner of 2nd Street, we have a lot of walkways that meander through here connecting to the existing pavilions as well as a new playground. And then this darker green area has the opportunity for some botanical gardens and some programming with that as well. And then along the frontage here of Eau Glaise River, we have some boat docking as well as a kayak launch. At the start of the park here, along Eau Glaise and 2nd Street, we have this kind of welcoming plaza that brings you into the park. And then primarily the rest of it is this parking area, really getting the best use out of those FEMA properties that cannot really have anything built on them. And then for Buckman Park, really similar to how it's been in the past, but we have this mixed-use building on the corner here with the opportunity of a history center that would go into this looping walkway surrounded by a lot of native plantings. We have that River's Edge amphitheater that would connect into this larger shelter building that also has restrooms. And this would be kind of surrounded by these art sculptures honoring the Native Americans that used to frequent the area. And then on either side here, we have those boardwalks that connect across the bridges, just to provide a safer alternative for pedestrians.
So coming down from the confluence, there's actually a proposed walkway here coming down the Oglays. And historically, for Riverside Park, main access has been here. But what we've heard is, again, in the community engagement, places to walk, closed loop type circulation. And so there's a great potential here and opportunity to be able to connect all the confluence with Riverside Park, rightfully so as a river adjacent park, with this walkway here that comes into Riverside Park. As you're coming along here, we're also looking at potential connections to Arabella Street, again, knowing that Triangle Park is right up the road and downtown shortly thereafter. And also looking at waterfront connections with kayak docks and kayak launches. And associated with that, the needed parking either for folks that want to access the trails or bring their kayaks to the site. And that would be accessed here off of Riverside Avenue. So as you come into the site, you can access the site coming off the trail, or what most people are accustomed to, parking within the parking lot here that's largely been left, and accessing the site that way. Small improvements here to allow pedestrian crossing, safe pedestrian crossing across the road here that would take you into the parking lot and into the site. One of the unique features about this park, besides the deer popping out at you as you're walking through the woods, is the sports amenities for the park. One of the main attractions for this site, as you all know, soccer and the football field, has been largely left in place. What we have looked at providing, though, is a little bit cleaner access and accessible routes. Again, improving circulation throughout the site, a closed loop here for walking or just even getting to your kids' sporting event here. Oops, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Stay. Okay. So walking around the site, you're able to access these fields, but also having walkways along the woods here gives you that opportunity to get a better access to these additional fields. You can also have that closed loop found around the woods. For those of you who may not know, there's actually a towpath back here that's actually quite traversable. Just looking at formalizing that a little bit, again, providing river overlooks, education opportunities at the river's edge with some additional overlooks, and obviously taking advantage of that higher bank here with maybe even some potential for getting down to the river's edge. We're also looking at, again, being able to provide the rentable feature for the pavilions that are noted here and over here near the kayak. Again, just offering a different view of nature, but also the ability to rent the space. One sports amenity that has changed, though, however, is the ball diamond here. In lieu of the ball diamond, being proposed here is the basketball court and a futsal court. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what a futsal court is, it's basically arena soccer. And looking at flanking on both sides of that, and then down the middle is a covered seating area, again, allowing guardians or spectators to have shaded seats for either event, but also shaded spot for a playground here that's just south of that location. Again, envisioning that to be multi-generational, different age groups.
So now for something new, we are sharing with you some 3D renderings to really show how much of an impact this can have on downtown Defiance. So you can see here we've got Fort Grounds right in the center with that pedestrian bridge connecting on either side. As you enter Kingsbury, you can see that event lawn and how it interacts with the baseball diamond while still maintaining that great view here. And then you can really see how that boardwalk is going to activate this space. In the back, you can kind of see hints of those mixed-use developments and what that might look like. And then just a peek into Buckman with that shelter house. Then to the right of the fort grounds, you kind of see those treetop boardwalk trails as well as some boat docking. And then you can really see how this interaction would work with the pedestrian bridge over that event center in Pontiac. Just really trying to give you guys an idea of what all of our renderings in two-dimensional might look like in real life.
Next, we have a view over Kingsbury Park. So this is about at the height of where that proposed residential mixed-use building would be. So you can see remaining the existing baseball diamond that goes over into the proposed flexible event space lawn right along the confluence there. Along sort of framing that lawn is also those boardwalks with the marsh space that were really wanted in the community. Right over near the pedestrian bridge entrance, we have that nature center, that boardwalk that sort of overshadows or overlooks the marsh space there, along with a rentable pavilion, event space for anybody, and a gathering space in the center there. Right along the existing pool, and proposed playground is just peeking out over there with that kayak launch over here also. Next, we have the view at Gateway Park. You can see all that river activation, kayak kiosk and launch right here. Steps down into the river to get some more interaction. Proposing that walkway underneath the Clinton Street Bridge to avoid vehicular conflict, as well as the main farmers market pavilion that allows space for vendors, picnic tables, gathering space, and that such.
And then this view is kind of if you were in your car or walking on the Purple Heart Bridge and looking to the east towards the confluence. I know it's been a big item is how visible will this pedestrian bridge be. So we just kind of wanted to illustrate that a little bit. You can kind of see it hiding back here, but not a huge presence. You can start to see those boardwalks along the fort grounds, as well as this naturalized edge of Pontiac.
And lastly, we have an evening view of Buckman, that riverfront stage space, an amphitheater for any small local events and that sort of thing. River activation right along here, those treetop boardwalks continuing. In the background here, you can get a peek at that shelter that is rentable space with restrooms, like Sydney said, and the opportunity in the plaza space for those sculptures to sort of highlight and honor those Native American tribes from the area.
All right. Sorry, pretty pictures are over. It's time to get to work. So as Nathan mentioned, which is a big part of this project has been an implementation matrix, which is a tool designed to help transform all those pretty pictures into reality. And this is what it looks like. This is actually a version of it. We brought a couple copies for folks tonight. It's more, it really serves as an action plan, a roadmap, providing specific details needed to bring the projects to life. Just for your information, it's organized by park. There's a section for each park, and it outlines specific items. Let's see, yeah, outlines specific items or projects, and those are divided into how quickly and how easily they can be accomplished. So we have a section called Quick Wins. Those are all shown in green. We have a section in blue for each park that is simple but requires funding. Those projects are pretty straightforward, but obviously need some financial support. And then in purple, we have major capital projects, which are large initiatives that require significant planning and investment. And you will also see that we have added a yellow section at the top of each park, and those are projects that are either have been completed or are in process since we've started this master plan project. So we did want to give attention to those as well. For each project, I think I'll go to the next slide here. All right. That's what it looks like. I have a hard copy version. So for Kingsbury Park, we're going to take a look at Kingsbury's. So each project is a row. And for each project, we obviously have the name of the project. The next kind of column that you see with the dots, those are the goals that are met by the project. So those original 4 goals that I talked about, public health, safety, and social equity, environmental quality and reducing flood risk, connectivity, and also placemaking and vibrancy. Those dots will say, okay, this project meets those goals. The next column is the responsible party. This is the lead entity or division of the city that is accountable for the implementation, and most of these are going to be city divisions. There might be a handful that are not, but the lead initiating responsible party is certainly going to usually be the local government. Then we have a column called funding sources and potential partners, and this is ideas for how the project could be financed and who could support it. The other long, tall column is a time frame column. We've said 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or ongoing. That's what those dots represent. And then the final column on the end is next steps, which is what are immediate actions to begin moving the project forward. This matrix ensures that Defiance Parks and Riverfront Master Plan is more than just a vision. It's a roadmap for real achievable progress. So we're going to look at a couple projects in Kingsbury, just so that you can kind of see how it works. And then Amber's going to take you through a couple in Bronson. So we'll start here with, I'm going to skip the yellow ones, but you can see the green. You can't read it from there, but I will tell you, because I have it open right here. The first green one is install shade trees, is what it says. The project goals are health and social justice, environmental quality, vibrancy and placemaking. The responsible party would be the Parks Division. Potential funding sources and partners listed are city budget, local civic organizations, park users, special interest organizations. And so what that means is there is a section in this implementation plan that dives into each one of those, but it says typically if this is going to be funded, it's going to be funded by the City of Defiance or perhaps a local civic organization like the Lions Club might do a fundraiser for it, or the Lions Club might come and help volunteer to plant the trees. So that column is really both funding and can be volunteer labor as well. So time frame for planting trees is next 2 years and ongoing, and the next step is to start determining desired location for trees, of course, in Kingsbury Park, because that's what we're talking about here. So that's an example for a quick win. A simple but requires funding, we're going to look at the last one here in blue, which is install boat docks and a kayak launch along the Auglaize River. From a project goal, vibrancy and placemaking, and improved connectivity. Probably going to start with the Parks Division and the Engineering Division of the city. Potential funding sources and partners are, of course, the city budget, potential corporate sponsors, foundations, local civic organizations, the ODNR, and special interest organizations. Timeframe, next 5 years. Next steps, secure funding and or develop engineered drawings. Do I have the next one? This is the second page of Kingsbury, which you can see I have here. The purple, as Sydney went through the Kingsbury Park, there's obviously some very large capital projects planned there. We're gonna look at the very last item, which is install pedestrian bridges connecting Kingsbury with Fort Grounds and Fort Grounds with Pontiac Metro. From a goal perspective, that improves connectivity and also is vibrancy and placemaking. Responsible party is Parks, Engineering, and Planning Divisions. Potential funding sources, obviously this is a major capital project. It's going to involve city budget, corporate foundations, potentially municipal bonds, ODNR, special interest organizations, and potentially even state and federal appropriations. Its time frame is long-term in the next 10 years, and the next step would be to start with a feasibility study for the bridge crossings.
So you'll see that we picked some of the big parks with some of the big projects to really give you an idea. Not all of the parks are going to have a 2-page spread of all of these projects. We just wanted to really get you familiar with this matrix, and to do that, we chose some of the big projects. So in Bronson, you already have some great things that are happening. Obviously, you've been doing the storybook trails. One of the next quick wins that you could do is to elevate that and start promoting that, and through the ODNR website and getting that on their radar and their maps and publicizing it throughout the state. On obviously continuing to maintain that. Those goals kind of overlap between what's already happening in the progresses and also in the quick wins. Both of them share the project goal accomplishments of health and social justice, vibrancy and placemaking, and improving connectivity, and then getting it on the ODNR. Maintaining and enhancing it is part of the environmental quality goal as well. So those are mostly Planning Division is going to take care of that and be the responsible party, and then also the Defiance Public Library will be one of the partners with that as well. Again, that's gonna come out of city budget, educational resources, grassroots and fundraising, local and civic organizations. That's where the library falls in, and then ODNR. That is something that can happen within the next 2 years. It's also something that's ongoing. So next steps for that would be just to continue to coordinate and communicate with the library. Some of the simple but require funding projects, I'll highlight one of those, and that is to activate the existing basketball court with a painted mural inspired by the park, a historical component, or an adjacent neighborhood. That meets 2 of the 4 project goals of health and social justice and vibrancy and placemaking. Planning Division, again, is going to take charge of that, but some potential funders, this one could really bring in some of the youth, some of the arts organizations, educational resources, and start to highlight some corporate opportunities for sponsorship. That is something that can be taken care of in the next 2 years, but that's just going to require a little bit more funding than continuing the story walks. Next steps for that would be to develop an RFQ, RFP, and select the artist and the design and go from there. Most of the bigger projects in Bronson are going to be on the west side of the ravine and down to the river, as that's kind of been untouched right now. So that's going to require a lot more planning and a lot more funding too. So some of those include, let me get down to that. Installing the kayak access points, installing the woodland shelter house and associated parking, installed an open air shelter with additional activities, and then developing that high-low ropes course. So again, those are going to mostly hit the health and social justice goals, vibrancy and placemaking, and improve connectivity goals. Various divisions, mostly almost entirely city divisions, so parks, engineering, and planning, and then also start to bring some economic development into it, especially with those high-low ropes course, and making sure that that's maintained and the market is ready for it. So potential funders are all across the board, from city budgets to corporate opportunity, foundation opportunity to get involved, local and civic organizations, and then ODNR, as well as some of the bigger projects might require municipal bonds or looking at state and federal appropriations. Those are going to be your big projects. Those are going to take 10 plus years to get to and to be ready for. Next steps are going to involve a series of planning and engineering once that time approaches and the city's ready to take that next step.
So as we talk about dreams and visions and improvements, obviously it's undeniable that that requires funding, that requires partnerships, that requires a lot of coordination. To accomplish this project as a whole, right? So taking the whole vision and saying, we believe in that, we want to invest behind that. As you can see, is around 145 million. So it seems like a lot, but that's an investment back into the community. Investments in parks are very much lead to other things, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. One thing to note is we're pulling these numbers together. We look at this as if everything's done through a bid process, whereas Rob and his team is great at self-performing things and doing things in-house. So there's obviously ways through partnerships, through collaboration, that some of those values can be reduced and done as well. But as we look to break that down a little bit, as we look at the total population of Defiance, if doing all of that over 25 years, that'd be about $345 per capita per person. As we look at it on an acreage standpoint, across the parks, it's about $6,000 an acre over that 25-year span. If we can accomplish all of this and invest in that and have this as an end product at the end of 25 years, that's transformative. But as we were walking through that matrix, one of the things that you'll see in the booklets up here is for each park, we talk about what is the highest priority project. So those have been determined based on the input that we've received at nights like tonight, the input we've received through survey. We met a couple weeks ago with the steering committee and really walked through some of those of, all right, do we rate this one higher or this one? And of course, that's a tough decision, right? When you're looking at two goods, which one do you put above as the number one? Which one do we need to do? Do we feel like we have to do now, or maybe has the most impact? So there's a lot of things to consider. But if we were to just tackle what's the highest priority project for all 20 plus parks, what would that be? As we look at that down here on the bottom, that's about $6 million to accomplish that highest priority task. If we split that over 2 years, you're looking at around 183 per capita. To put that into comparison, across the nation, it's hard to really get into data that's not looking at large communities, but there is research out there for looking at the top 100 communities in size, but also looking at that in a scale of per capita. So it really kind of breaks it down to be a little bit more relatable. But looking at that, those communities are spending around 235 per capita. So just as kind of a little bit of a reference point there. But beyond investing in the parks, there's other things that come with that that are impactful. One of those you saw throughout the renderings is the opportunity of the ripple effect of that spending. So there's different studies that were performed, or a study performed in 2023 noted that putting money in has some return. And looking at this, just purely looking at what is estimated for those couple private development projects that could be potential partnerships. So that's looking at, there's 2 in Kingsbury, 1 in Buckman, and 1 over at Gateway or Canal there. Looking at those are estimated to be around 45 million. So right there's a 30% potential return of working through that. That's not counting in various other factors, or obviously if you have an event space like is shown at Kingsbury, you're going to draw and continue to draw. When you have the fireworks, you have those big spaces for different events. Job creation as well. When you're investing in something, there's job creation that happens in both those, in the construction of those parks as well. But a 2024 study for Land Trust noted the higher investment in parks generally maintains a higher return or capture rate, so to speak, of entrepreneurs on the young age of companies. So that's a plus when you're looking at it as a community aspect. A great thing with parks as well is your public health, your quality of life, which I think a lot of us in the last 5 years or so, when parks became a very big, important asset to communities, as they always have been. But there's a lot of research out there of the more time in parks, the lower percentages of mental health, poor mental health, and physical inactivity. So really encouraging those, and that's having, again, a ripple effect in the community to really provide back to kind of that goal of placemaking and health. So a lot of this, again, we're looking at this as a whole vision of the whole project, but also keeping in mind it's really an investment. It's what we're investing into the community, into the parks, to really keep things moving forward and showing that progression as well, and really bringing things to the community. So.
So we talked about some big scary numbers, and I know that's scary to you, but there's been such a strong support from the Defiance community, and we've seen it in the year and a half that we've been here. The support for not just the parks and the rivers, but the community in general is just astounding here. Just to kind of give you a comparison and an idea of what we're seeing, in 2024, the park cleanup had 425 participants, which is already a phenomenal number to start with. Most communities your size are not going to see that turnout. But this support is continuing to grow, and within 1 year, you had over 100 or almost 100 additional people show up to clean up the parks this spring, and that's just a huge number. You don't see that kind of growth, especially pouring the time and the money and the soul back into your parks. That's just unheard of. I only expect that this growth and support will continue as the parks continue to revitalize themselves.
So why would kind of the stakeholder group and the steering committee really believe Defiance can do it? Because you're already doing it. So this list here is a list of projects that have been completed throughout the design process over this last year and a half. So these are obviously good projects. It's not a comprehensive list. We'll go over a couple more here in a little bit. But it's showing that process is already going. The important thing is also seeing some of these are directly coming out of feedback that we've been hearing in survey and meetings here. So already taking some of that feedback and finding ways to implement that into improvements, or we're working in this area and they can tailor that a little bit. So that list is a great start, right? But we still have work to do. So early on, we asked a survey question that was, if you don't use the rivers, why not? The highest answer was, I do not own a boat or kayak or paddle boat, etc. That was 64% of participants. So that's a large number. And the great thing, looking at the item, the first one there with a kayak rental that's kind of recently going in, is really being able to provide people that opportunity now, or make it a little bit more accessible to provide access to them. Again, looking at top 5 program desired by the community was swim lessons. So this summer, the city's partnership with the Y of having swim lessons at Kingsbury. They're at the pool and having 3 sessions well attended, and really again, gaining that comfort with the river, with water, to help promote, as we, that was noticed pretty clearly in the survey as well. Also in the surveys, over 60% of respondents desired more connectivity, both connectivity between parks, from a neighborhood to a park, or even just within a park itself. So as the team talked about on the Riverfront, providing connections there, but knowing that there's, in the works of getting over $200,000 worth of connectivity improvements in Veterans Park. So again, getting that connectivity, connecting those components of parks to make them more accessible, and promoting that use that's there. So again, that forward motion and beginning to check off some of those items that Amy and Amber were talking about already in the implementation matrix. Another one of the top 5 identified park activities people would be most likely to participate in was ice skating. So again, last winter saw the synthetic ice rink put into Kingsbury. Great response there. The Globe, everything that went with it, which is an exciting opportunity, and to really see people engage with that. But to also know that the city is not necessarily stopping there. It's looking at how can we improve that and make that better. Part of the discussions in this master plan is actually looking at how can that be improved and continue to facilitate the excitement that the community's got. So looking at transitioning that from Kingsbury to Bronson Park, they're just to the side of the splash pad where the big concrete pad is there. It is actually basically the exact size of the ice rink that was at Kingsbury. So it fits there, is more flat, more level, allows for a better surface for the skating. But also when you think about the splash pad, right, there's support facilities that go with the splash pad that also are beneficial as you're looking at an ice rink, whether it be the concessions, the restrooms, the seating, the fenced enclosure. So just kind of being able to capitalize on that and really be strategic of the resources and the amenities that you already have, and use those in multifaceted ways. So those are just a couple exciting things to show that process is already going. Those check boxes are already beginning to be checked, and moving those steps forward. So next steps with this master plan process. So we will be releasing the community survey starting today. So we'll have a QR code on the screen here shortly. And there'll be different opportunities and ways to interact with that. And there's a series of questions to get feedback, to make sure this is, we've been able to hear everything, and we've got hundreds and probably thousands of comments to be able to sift through all of those. And, are we on the right track? So really being able to get that input there, that'll be open through August 17th. So take it, share it with other people. We really want to get that input and guidance to keep this master plan as connected to the community as possible. Also on August 18th, at 5 o'clock, we'll have a presentation to the Park Board and Plan Commission, where we'll be bringing this information. Also, that'll be the first time we'll share some of those results then from that survey, to really see what's the community's thoughts on what's been presented to date. And then a couple weeks later, at the beginning of September on the 2nd, at 7 o'clock, the final recommendations will go in front of council. So we welcome you to both of those meetings, and would be happy to have everybody there as well at those. And that'll lead us towards the end of the project. But again, it's not the end, right? That's the end of this phase. And the next phase is working towards implementation, one step at a time. So that's the QR code. We'll come back to this and leave it up, but please take the survey. The feedback that we've gotten so far has been instrumental. And not only, like Amy said earlier, we walked every single one of these parks. We've been in all of them, but the community sees things and knows the needs. And that's one of the best ways for us to receive that input on different things that maybe haven't been thought about, or maybe haven't, and all this, the discussions, the interactions that Amy talked about that we haven't had or heard so far. But with that, we thank you for your time. We thank you for all the input you've provided so far and the input that'll be coming from the survey. We'll be setting up some easels and some boards. As Amy said, we'll have that implementation matrix. We will be here to answer questions, to take input, and assist where we can, and just talk about the plans, the process, anything that you want to talk about. So we'll set those up. I'll leave the QR code up there. You're welcome to take it. You're welcome to get it saved and bookmarked in. Yeah. Yeah.
Defiance has awesome parks. I'm newer to the area, but I'm just impressed with them and the plans. But has there been any talk about equipment for handicapped and inclusive, like an inclusive, one park for inclusive? Because we're really lacking those kind of things. Has that ever been brought up?
Yeah, I would say it's been brought up quite a bit, and I would say is one of kind of the main priorities. I think the goal would be where do we start with that one park, but the goal is not just one park, it's across the board. As you look at some of these things and come up and talk to the team, there's a lot of things that we've begun pulling into this, whether it's safety surfacing at a playground or different things to promote accessibility. Josh hit on the connectivity. Sometimes it's just providing a truly accessible connection. Walk up and there's a playground out in the middle of grass, but there's no sidewalk to it. It may have safety surfacing. It's not accessible because I can't get to it. So just reevaluating a lot of those things. Even there's been talk of looking at restrooms and different things like that. So I would say absolutely a major component, and you'll see that carried through a lot of items throughout the matrix plan as well. So, yeah.
Do you bring them in to discuss? Because having Good Sam here as a public special needs school in this town, I feel like more inclusivity in the parks would be like semi-priority, because a child going to a park, that is all inclusive, who doesn't have special needs, will still thrive in that park. Right?
Absolutely.
Whereas a child who has special needs goes into the parks now, and there's only some, accessibility for them, won't thrive as much as a child who doesn't have special needs.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if you guys discuss that all with the Board of ED, because I feel like they have a good, understanding of what the children that go specifically to Good Sam, which is a big part of this community, because I know there's a lot of parents with special needs, as to like what to do to try to help them feel included.
Yeah.
'Cause no child should be left out, I feel like,
Correct.
of play outside.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
We did have a representative from the Board of Development Disabled as part of our team throughout the process.
Yep.
She was really good about attending most of the meetings.
Awesome, okay.
Yeah.
I was like 30 minutes late, so I don't know what was the
Yeah,
schedule
no,
for, which is why I'm asking for
definitely having that input, and even just on the design team, we've had a lot of experience in parks like that. We have one about halfway through construction right now that is fully inclusive to adult changing tables and restrooms. I mean, looking at it more than just the path from A to B, looking at that holistic, how do colors interact with environments and spaces like that. So definitely an important factor. Yeah, and yeah, stakeholder group was a part of that and really focused on that. Yes, Mr. Rusty. Question?
Yeah, you have a timeline, September 2nd, that you'll, based on the community conversations, you'd make a recommendation to city council, findings or whatever. My thoughts would be for city council to do a study session based on your findings and let us basically decide, what to do next,
Okay.
based on the recommendations. So I think in some sort, there's a lot of good quality items that you're doing, a lot of plus factors for our community. Any community would accept that and run with it. But I think it's one of those things where we have to decide what is in the best interest of the community, cost-wise, and with a lot of the good projects you have, what are the priorities? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yep.
based on what you bring to us.
Mhm.
Because you've done the work. I mean, that's great what you've done. And everything we have to do, I think, is some way sort it out and make it workable.
Yeah.
But a study session for us would probably be better.
No, and that's the easiest part, right? Deciding what to do. But no, I think that is one of the most challenging parts, is figuring out where those priorities lay. So that's something we can talk with the city about and have those discussions. So, question in the back? Yeah. Go ahead.
Is the booklet that you showed gonna be available online, like through a website, so you don't, it's not scanning the code? I wasn't able to read the little charts, so I assume that I can access that, like through the city website, or, everything that book that you showed, some of it appeared up here. You said you were gonna give us a website or something where we can view the full plan, the list of stakeholders, everything?
Yeah, so the full plan is not up anywhere as of right now, because we were coming to this meeting, and wanted to share it here first. The survey is really focused on gathering feedback on kind of specific components, and definitely the plan will be shared, at points. I know on the city's website, you can see up to today all the progress and all the different, I think we have like 6 chapters of this book that is 600, 700 pages in total. But we do have the hard copies up here that you're welcome to look at tonight. And then we can talk to the city about potentially sharing that information further.
Where it can be read.
Okay. Yeah, good point.
Code. And when you're thinking of handicap accessibility, I couldn't see very well, so maybe you already have this, but there should be multiple turnouts like they have at Sidewalk Metro Park in Toledo, where if you're walking with someone who's in a wheelchair, you can both turn aside and go all the way to the water's edge.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And I would say, yeah, definitely come up and take a look at the plans, talk to us, and we can kind of highlight some of those components. But I think that's an excellent point. I mean, even down to just having companion seating next to a bench, right, is a key component. I don't want to, if I'm in a wheelchair, I don't want to have to be parked in the walkway, but I want to be able to feel, next to who I'm with. So there's a lot of things. Some of those will be covered here in kind of concept as a part of the master plan. But again, as projects continue moving forward, that's where the details and the exact, is that walkway 8 foot or is it 10 foot or is it 12 foot? That's where it really continues to get refined, and those discussions are going to become even more important. Yeah.
Exciting concepts.
Yeah, no, thank you.
We go to Toledo a lot and do the metro parks. This is very exciting.
Before too long, you can just stay here, right?
And we enjoy our parks here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we'll set up easels and definitely come up, talk to us, ask away questions, comments, feedback as well.